listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. This episode is all about Band 9 essays. I found an ex-IELTS examiner and I said, hey, could you write out a couple of Band 9 essays, please, and then write some commentary as to why these are so good, why these would receive Band 9. So what I'll do is I'll just walk you through it. Okay, we're going to cover all 4 areas. That's task response, cohesion and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. And we're going to look at all of them. And I'll give you the question, and I would strongly recommend you just write down your thoughts, write down your plan, and even maybe just write out the whole essay and then see if you can find any similarities, or even better, you could go through and start adding the elements I'm talking about, start adding these elements to your essay, and then maybe you want to even just send it in for correction. So let's have a look. Now, the first question is, there is less communication between family members of late. Do you agree or disagree? To what extent do you agree? Okay, so as normal, slightly confusing question. So as I said before, the best way is to don't jump into the introduction. Best way is make a plan, make your positions, get your positions clear in your mind, maybe think of some examples, map it all out, and then transfer your map into your essay. And if you're worried about that part, and if you don't know how to do that, then you might want to have a look at IELTSPodcast.com, and the sentence guide is the online course we've developed, which helps you and guides you through this exact problem. Because a lot of students just like, my mind goes blank, it's empty, I don't know what to do. That's so common. So this is exactly why the course has a full chapter designed to deal with that problem. So let's go. There is less communication between family members of late. Do you agree or disagree? To what extent do you agree? Okay, so I will say I completely disagree, for example, or I'd say for this reason, this example, okay? Or you maybe take a different path, but basically you just got to get your position straight. So let's go into it. Let's do the introduction first. As electronic devices play an increasingly more central role in our lives, it has been suggested that there has been an unprecedented decline in interpersonal communication, not only with colleagues, business associates and close friends, but also with our immediate family. So there are about 6 points there. Hopefully you wrote that introduction out and then you can identify. So let's go through it first. Let's go through it. As electronic devices play an increasingly more central role in our lives. Increasingly. Okay? Lexical resource. So what we did by using increasingly is we avoided saying a much more central role in our lives. That's kind of basic. We used increasingly. Okay? Also, the examiner said we could have used significantly there. Next point. It has been suggested that, what's this? So grammatical range, and what we're doing here is using the passive. We're going to pick up points for using a different structure, okay? And it's kind of a useful structure. Try to limit it though, in my opinion, my personal opinion, because it's a bit clunky and it's not the clearest way to communicate. However, we are writing for academic English purposes, so in that respect it's good. So let's go. There has been an unprecedented decline. Okay, so once again we're making our sentences richer. Instead of saying there has been a decline in interpersonal communication. We say there has been an unprecedented decline. Okay, it's more complex, this kind of language. Unprecedented basically means never seen before. Let's move on. Unprecedented decline in interpersonal communication. So by interpersonal communication, okay, we're boosting our lexical resource because we're not saying communication all the time. We're using interpersonal communication, we're varying it, and we're just showing the examiner that we've got an extensive vocabulary resource. Okay, we could have also used social. There's a decline in social communication. Then it goes on. Not only with colleagues, business associates, and close friends. Lists. This is what I've been saying for a long time. Lists, and this is from the ex-IELTS examiner. She said, lists are a good way to get in lots of good vocabulary to impress the IELTS examiner. I usually teach a good way to put in topic-specific vocabulary as well, okay? But also with our immediate family. Once again, instead of just saying family, we're going to say immediate family. And once again, we're going to use sort of like an elaboration on, like, instead of just using family and repeating it all the time, we're going to say immediate family. We could have said immediate, we could have said close ones, loved ones. Okay, so variation and avoiding repetition. Okay. Okay, good. So this just makes it sound more complex as well, more sophisticated. I completely agree with this assertion. Okay. Cohesion and coherence here. By saying we completely agree with this assertion, we're linking back, we're referring back to the idea about less communication nowadays, which is what we've been saying in the previous sentences and what the question is asking about. Okay? And moreover, discourse markers to signpost to the reader what is coming next. And moreover, this is a worrying trend. Lexical resource, collocation, okay, a worrying trend, okay. And the examiner says here, it is vital that IELTS candidates know collocations such as this one, okay, because it can be used in lots of different tasks, a worrying trend. Okay, that looks set to continue. Okay, that might sound very germane and normal, but looks set to continue will help you with your lexical resource because you're using set as an adjective, okay? And in this sense, it means likely, okay? And what is it? That looks likely to continue, that looks set to continue, okay? So it's less commonly used language here. Let's move on to the first paragraph. I'll go through the first sentence. Hopefully you'll be writing this down and maybe you want to identify the parts. You want to identify the parts that you think would be scoring points. So let's go. Even though face-to-face interactions are possibly at their lowest ever, it would be foolish not to recognize the valuable role that advanced technology plays. Let's go through it. Even though communication, cohesion and coherence here, okay? So the examiner said, although and even though have similar meanings, but even though is slightly stronger and is less commonly used by IELTS candidates. It's good to know. Face-to-face interactions. So what would face-to-face interactions help with? Lexical resource, grammatical range? Well, lexical resource. And the reason is because it's a substitution for communication. And as I've said a million times before, IELTS examiners do not like repetition. Okay? Show the examiner you've got extensive vocabulary. Okay, even though face-to-face interactions are possibly at the lowest level ever, it would be foolish not to recognize the valuable role that advanced technology plays. Okay, foolish here. It would be foolish not to recognize. So, lexical resource points, and this would help you with And you'd get points here because it's complex language and it means stupid, basically. Okay, it would be stupid not to recognize. But obviously, because this is formal academic English, we do not use words like stupid. All right, not to recognize the valuable role. Once again, lexical resource. Okay, and again, it's a useful collocation, the valuable role that advanced technology plays. Let's move on. Okay, so I'll just summarize again. Even though instead of although, face to face, we're avoiding repetition. Foolish, we're using slightly more advanced vocabulary. Valuable role, we're using collocations to help boost with the vocab. So yeah, 4 important points there. Let's continue. Thanks to it. Okay, this basically means because of or as a result of, and less common, and this is less common than because. Okay, so thanks to it, we can instantly get in touch with any individual or organization at the touch of a button. Okay, hopefully you would have recognized that there is an idiomatic phrase there. Okay, and at the touch of a button means extremely quickly. The examiner here says that idioms should be used with caution in IELTS writing, but this one is acceptable. But this one is an acceptable one to use, and it's acceptable because it's used in the correct and appropriate situation. It's not forced. Okay. Sorry about that. Regardless of time zone or location. So let's go through. Thanks to it, we can instantly get in touch with any individual or organization at the touch of a button, regardless of time zone or location. Good. For example, we can follow what our friends have been doing through social media platforms such as Facebook or Instagram. Therefore, the rise in communication via such methods cannot be underestimated. Good. Let's go. For example, we can follow what our friends have been doing. Okay, the present perfect, have been doing. So that's going to help in our grammatical range score, okay, because it's a tense not commonly used by non-native speakers. And you could also use it in your speaking, okay? And the examiner says here that it would impress the examiner. So take note. Through social media platforms such as Facebook or Instagram. Good. Therefore, now, what would therefore help with? So, cohesion and coherence. Again, discourse markers are required throughout to organize the text. Okay. So therefore, the rise in communication via such methods. Let's see, such methods. Okay, the such methods is referring to the social media platforms, which we mentioned before. So can you see like parts of the sentence are referring to other parts of the paragraph, and this helps you build your essay. This helps you with makes your essay cohesive and coherent. And the examiner picked up on that and duly noted that it's an important point to pay attention to. Then at the end, via such methods cannot be underestimated. How would that help your score? In which criteria? Well, it will help you with grammatical range and accuracy because you're using modal passives. Okay, which help to impress the examiner. Let's move on. Next paragraph. Can you see how this is all building? Okay, we've got the signpost language, we've got it all connecting, we've got examples there, we've got the signpost language, we've got the, I said that already, but we've got the collocations, we've got the lexical resource, okay, we're using different tenses, a range of tenses, so it's really helping to write, to support the examiner's grading process. Let's move on. Nevertheless, what would that help with? Okay, so here the examiner said, cohesion and coherence, starting the paragraph with this word indicates that something different is going to follow that contrasts with the previous idea. So again, linking it to the previous ideas, building this essay, building your argument, building your position. Nevertheless, this reduced contact with our own family is a disturbing byproduct of electronic communication and could be attributed to the change in lifestyles for the current generation. Let's go into this with more detail. This reduced contact with our own family is a disturbing. Okay, lexical resource means complex language, meaning worrying. Okay, byproduct. Okay, a very useful and complex word, meaning that something happens as a result of another thing happening. Okay, crime is a byproduct of rising levels of unemployment. Okay, useful word again. Okay, a byproduct of electronic communication and could be attributed to the change in lifestyles. Now, in that fragment, what was the point that the examiner noted? Could be attributed. Use of modal passive to expand grammatical range. Okay, for the current generation. Once again, lexical resource. Now, here's a very valuable tip. Okay, in IELTS writing, it is highly likely that you're going to talk about people. So, knowing lots of ways to refer to them is essential. IELTS examiners do not like repetition, so it's important to avoid it to get a high grade in lexical resource. Fantastic. Now, from my own experience, I knew this, and this is why in my online course, there's whole chapters about how to avoid repetition, how to use signpost language, and how to build an essay that's going to score you points. So let's carry on. For instance, the previous generation, once again, very late, I just said that. Yeah, once again, referring to people. So for instance, the previous generation worked in 9-to-5 jobs. 9-to-5 jobs. Grammatical range, cohesion and coherence, no. Lexical resource, another idiomatic phrase, okay? And this means a job with regular working hours, okay? So, for instance, the previous generation worked in 9-to-5 jobs and went home every day to eat and chat about their day with their families. Good. Talking about repetition, we've got day there twice, but hey, the ex-IELTS examiner wrote this, I'm not going to complain. Okay, so the millennials, now listen to this sentence because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points where you can get 6 fragments which pick up points. So let's go. The millennials, in stark contrast, are frequently employed as digital nomads, working irregular hours, and this lack of routine results and this lack of routine results in a different way of life to our ancestors. Okay. So a small typo there if you get hold of the PDF of Band 9 essays. But anyway, let's carry on. So the millennials, lexical resource, okay, basically it means a person who became an adult around the year 2000. In stark contrast, right. So not also is this fairly complex, okay, but it's to show contrast, okay? And it's even more complex because we've put stark. Instead of saying in contrast, we're saying in stark contrast, okay? And we're contrasting this idea with the previous idea, shows that this paragraph is a collection of sentences that all link to each other and the arguments are related. And this is what makes the essay much more coherent and easier to follow. Okay? The millennials, in stark contrast, are frequently employed. Okay. Let's see. So are frequently employed. The passive. We're using the passive once again. As digital nomads. Okay. Another new word in English meaning someone who uses technology, especially a laptop and a wireless network, to work remotely from anywhere in the world. Genius, no? Okay, working irregular hours, and this lack of routine results in a different way of life to our ancestors. Good. So, now, hopefully you spotted that there's another word there, another two fragments that picked up points. Here we go. Working irregular hours. And this lack of routine results in a different way of life to our ancestors. So working, reduced relative clause. The full clause would be who are working. Okay? Points. And this lack of routine results in a different way of life to our ancestors. Once again, a different way of saying people. Okay? To say different way of life to other people. That wouldn't have got you many points. Our ancestors, however, boosts, helps you score high. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. So we're going to the conclusion. Let's go. Despite communication being at its highest level in terms of quantity, the quality of this communication is debatable. 2 points there. Despite communication being. So here instead it's for cohesion and coherence again, because we're kind of contrasting the ideas despite this, and basically we're saying although. So if you're using although, we're immediately showing a different point of view to what we were saying before, and despite does the same task. Okay. And also the sentence has been made more complex because we're saying despite communication being. So here the structure is despite plus verb plus ing. Okay, so we could say despite Americans being fairly active, they are, however, blah blah blah. Okay, or they are renowned for being slightly overweight or whatever. That's probably false, I don't know. I'm not criticizing Americans, let's move on. So, despite communication being at its highest level in terms of quantity, the quality of this communication is debatable. So, points here for the final word, which is debatable. Complex language meaning questionable. Lexical resource again. Moving on. Social media updates. Complex language that is relevant to the topic. Social media updates should not replace personal contact with close family members, and interactions should be encouraged by senior family members. Okay, I'll go through the whole sentence again at the end because it's slightly longer. So let's go. So here the next point is interactions. Once again, a substitution for communication. Yeah, and we're avoiding repetition again, okay? Should be encouraged. Modal passives. What would the modal passives help us with? Grammatical range and accuracy, okay? So we're showing the examiner that we can use this tense accurately, okay? By senior family members, all right? So I probably just butchered that a little bit. I'll just do it again. So despite communication being at its highest level in terms of quantity, the quality of this communication is debatable. Social media updates should not replace personal contact with close family members, and interaction should be encouraged by senior family members. By setting a good example to children, such as not using gadgets at the dinner table and instead trying to engage with their offspring in more meaningful ways. Wonderful, wonderful way to finish. So, where's the points there? Okay, well we can, in that fragment, we could say setting a good example. A collocation, to set a good example. I always set a good example at the dinner table by putting my phone into flight mode, for example. Okay? Collocations. to children, such as not using gadgets at the dinner table and instead trying to engage with their offspring in more meaningful ways. Offspring. Once again, we're using a variety of words to describe people, and we're being more specific. We're avoiding repetition. We're helping the examiner give us points. Okay, so that was the whole essay. I think, in my personal opinion, the key points to draw from this is that we're using idiomatic expressions, okay, accurately and sparingly. We're not stuffing them in there. All of the grammar was perfect, okay. Obviously, it's written by an ex-IELTS examiner, so it's something to aim for. 2, there was confidence with the range of grammar structures used, and there was definitely a lot of variety with the lexical resource, okay? Now, regarding cohesion and coherence, you could see that it was all tied together, that the points were linking with each other, and together all these sentences worked in cohesion, okay, to demonstrate and communicate a very valid point that was all on task response. There's no notes by the examiner, interestingly, about task response because there was no need to. It was all on topic. There was no veering off topic, talking about how Zuckerberg wants to put lots of helium balloons around Africa, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that because it wasn't so related, okay? This was all just focused, neat, and organised essay that clearly got the points for task response. Right, so, and if you want to write like that, have a look at IELTSPodcast.com and have a look at the online course there. It's very useful, and we teach how to do these types of essays, okay? Teach it daily. Whole course there. It's got good, solid results with success stories. We interview students who are successful. So have a look at that, and I think you'll find a lot of value there. Okay, have a great day and keep studying. Okay, summer's here in Europe, so you might be tempted just to ditch your studies and go to the beach. If so, take your podcast with you. But ideally, you'll be focusing, you'll be working, you'll be motivated. And remember, it's just a short time, a small price to pay for some big benefits for the rest of your life. Okay, so bear that in mind. Keep going. You're doing fantastic, and all the best.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.